Welcome to Web Development Lesson 4.2. In this video, we're going to see how we can extend our capabilities of decision making to include multiple conditions. In order to combine these conditions, we will use logical operators, specifically the AND and the OR. One thing to know as we go in through this video, realize you've used these words in your natural language as part of decision making even before you started learning programming. So realize there's nothing mystical about making decisions and using these words of AND and OR. So let's get to it. All right, so to explore these two concepts of logical AND and OR, we're going to look at two examples. The first example is a system access one. And again, this is not an uncommon thing. Matter of fact, we do this all the time now, where we log into a system with a username and a password. In order for us to gain access to that system, both our username and our password have to be correct. And hopefully you realized how I kind of, emphasized the word AND. Like I said earlier at the beginning of the video, these concepts of logical AND and OR is something that's already known to us. We've used it in our everyday language. So just realize there's nothing going to be too hard about this. It's just a little bit of the syntax. So let's look at our JavaScript. Close this up again. All right, so what I've done is we have a shell of a program here where we get the user's name, we get the password, and we have a message that we want to display, either access granted or access denied. And that's going to be based off a decision. So we're going to say if username is equal to perhaps admin, and the password is equal to, let's say, 1234. I mean, nothing too sophisticated. And honestly, for real systems, this stuff will be stored in a database. But we're just looking to, show you how to use the logical AND operator. And let's go ahead and set message equal to access granted if we get the right username and password. Else, we'll have to tell them access denied. Now, to help us in exploring how the logical operator works, let's go ahead and display these individual portions of the decision. So I'm going to display this one first, then I'll display the next side, and then I'll display the whole thing together. Because that's the important thing here for you to realize that the conditions in a decision is a Boolean expression. So somehow it must evaluate to true or false. In order for the message granted to happen, this expression has to evaluate to true. Anything else other than true means that the else statement gets caught and we produce access denied. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. All right, so let's get it right. So we'll say admin. And we'll do passwords of 1234, hit login. And you'll see that the first true happens with this one because the username is equal to admin. And the second true is for the password, and we did enter in the password of 1234. And then obviously at this point, both the left side, this condition, and this condition are both true, which means the whole thing is true. Let's go ahead and get this wrong now. So I'm going to add a 5 to the end of our password. And what you'll notice, actually, let me clear this out and we'll run it again. Notice the first true is for the username equal to admin because it does. But the second one, the password equal to 1234, it's not because I put a 5 at the end. So this turns out to be false, which means now the overall condition is false. That is how the logical AND operator works. Both sides have to be true in order for the whole condition to be true. Again, this is where I'm talking about. It might sound very technical, but just realize, our question was, is the username equal to admin and the password is equal to 1234? So intuitively, both things need to happen in order for there to be success. Now let's go ahead and switch this up. I'm going to put the password correct, and I'm going to simply put a 2 at the end of it. Let me clear it out again as I did before. All right, so you can see here the first one is false, means the username wasn't equal to admin. But the second one, the password equal to 1234, it is. I took off the 5. But yet the whole overall condition is false. Again, we got to meet both sides. And the last permutation of this is for us to actually get both the username and the password wrong, which just means you're not getting access. Now, one of the reasons I use the system access because intuitively you've logged in. You've realized times when you've typed in the wrong password, you can't get in. You've typed in the wrong username, but right password. Again, we type fast sometimes. The only way we can get into a system is if the username and the password are correct. That is how the logical AND operator works. Both sides have to be correct in order for the Boolean expression to be true. Now, the other logical operator that's useful is the OR operator. Now, the OR operator works a little bit differently. The way the OR operator works is that at least one thing has to be true for the whole thing. So what we're doing here is team requirements. So to be eligible for the team, you have to be at least a junior, or your grade level is over, or your GPA is over 90. And for that, I'm actually going to go to parse int for these. Realize I didn't have it, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in. Again, sometimes when you're doing numerical comparison, it's beneficial for you to ensure that it's being treated as a number and not as a string. Again, just as a side note, any information, regardless of what it looks like when it comes from a text input, is considered a string. All right, so let's go to what we were trying to do here. And notice that in this scenario, as well as in this one, notice the word and in it, as well as over here, the word or. So whenever you see something like that in a scenario, that's a clear indication you're going to be using a logical operator as part of your decision. So for this, we're going to say a level of at least a junior. So we're going to say a level greater than or equal to 11. Or, now the or symbol is the two vertical lines. It's usually above the enter key. Sometimes it's dashed, but they come up as a solid line. And we'll say over 90. And what's let's say team, what should we say? Welcome? We'll say welcome and sorry. Sorry, you did not make the team. Okay, now similarly, I'm also going to do the console log so we can kind of explore how the logical OR operator works. So I'm going to display the individual ones and then display the combined one. Again, for you to be able to understand how these logical operators work, you have to understand that it's all based on the individual conditions being listed in the decision. All right, so let's give this a try. And again, at this point, we're trying the right side. Yeah, we're not storing any passwords. All right, so let's get it correct. So we're going to say a grade level of 11 and a GPA of 91. And we get an error line 20. Let's see if we can fix that real quick. Level. All right, so somehow that feels like, because it says grade level. All right, so we're just going to change it to level over here. That didn't take too long. All right, so let's go back. 11, 91, do a quick check. And we can see here, well, our grade level is greater than or equal to 11, so that came back as true. Our GPA is greater than 9, that came back as true. So our decision of being either a level of 11, a junior, or a GPA of 90 came back as true. So now let's say that we are a sophomore, but we have a GPA of 91. Let's go ahead and clear this out. So you'll notice that the first one comes back as false. Yeah, we're not, our grade level is not greater than or equal to 11. We're sophomores, we're grade 10. But the second half, our GPA of being greater than 90 is true. So notice that the overall evaluation of this expression comes back as true. So what that means is that with an or, as long as one of the conditions is true, then the whole expression is true. Again, if you kind of look at the words, you are eligible for the team if you're at least a junior or a GPA is over 90. So intuitively, even without the knowledge of programming, you know that as long as you're one of those two things, you get on the team. So let's go the other route now. Let's say we are a junior, but our average is 88. Okay, so, and let me just bring this up a little bit. So we can see here the first condition gets met. We are a junior, at least a junior, but our second condition is not. Our GPA is not over 90. It's 88, but the overall condition comes back as true. Why? Because we're at least a junior. Now the last permutation of this is for us to be, let's say, a sophomore with an 88. And as you can see here, we fail the first condition of not being at least a junior, and we fail the second condition of not having a GPA of over 90, which means that the overall GPA or the overall condition is false. So again, these are two examples of how to work with logical operators. Let's go back to our presentation and let's review what we've done, and I actually have an extra slide before we kind of exit. So Boolean expressions allow us to make more complex decisions. Again, these are words that are used in our natural language. The logical and expressions are true when all individual conditions are true. So everything has to be met in order for an expression with a logical and to be true. Contrary, the logical or statements are true when at least one condition is true. So only one thing has to be met in order for an expression with a logical or to be true. Now on the flip side, you kind of think of it like this. A logical or statement is false when both things are false. So again, I definitely want you to embrace the fact that these operators are things that we use in our natural language, and hopefully you're excited about making some really complex decisions. Enjoy.